What's up, Nick DiPaolo fans in New York? Now is your chance to see Nick DiPaolo live at the Tarrytown Music Hall in Tarrytown, New York on November 16th. Come check it out. Even if you live in New York City, it's only an hour drive away. It's a great place, and Nick will be there on November 16, 2013. Get your tickets now at nickdip.com. That's nickdip.com. You can purchase tickets. Check it out. It's going to be a great show. November 16, 2013 at the Tarrytown Music Hall in Tarrytown, New York.
What's up, folks? Nick DiPaolo coming at you. It's it's Saturday, and won't release this till probably Monday or Tuesday of next week. Tomorrow, I'm headed to Minneapolis, Acme Comedy Club, where Monday and Tuesday nights I'm shooting my new 1-hour DVD that I will proceed to shop around after that. And, I'm looking forward to it. Great club. Acme Comedy Club in Minneapolis. And the guy that runs it's a genius. This guy, Lewis Lee. You can go in there on a Monday night. It would be like open mic night. And he has like 250 paying customers in there. He grooms young local talent. People get hooked on these young comics and follow him. And he's had it down. It's science, man. He's just so good at it. And I've played the place many times. Killer room, low ceiling, which is the key to a great comedy club. It keeps the energy right in the comic's face and in the audience. And it's just some of these places you play are cavernous, man. These improvs and funny bones. And I appreciate they have them all over the country, but they build these new ones, and I mean, you could hit fungos in there, and it's echoey, and the sound is horrendous. I can't believe that people who do this don't know the first thing should be a low ceiling. But Acme, tremendous club in Minneapolis, and the people, I've played it 5 or 6, 7 times maybe. I've never had to tell one audience member to behave or to lower their voice or shut off a cell phone. It's that Minneapolis polite they talk about. And it's just run like a Swiss watch. I'm so excited to shoot this hour there. It's just, I mean, they hang on every word. They laugh at everything. They're not judgmental. It's just an awesome club. So I'm doing that Monday and Tuesday. We're going to, record one show on Monday night, 2 on Saturday night. I mean, on Tuesday night, excuse me. And, it's going to be awesome. Been working on the hour. I have to head tonight to Point Pleasant, club called Uncle Vinny's. My final set before we shoot this in Minneapolis. Just tightening it up. But it's good. It's this new hour is kind of it's very apolitical for me. Again, you listen to me talk for an hour, you're gonna know how I voted or whatever. And but it's really kind of apolitical, touching on all kinds of stuff. The perverted creeps that have taken over the subway in New York already. And talking about advice that guys give women, some college professor giving women advice at the University of Colorado on how to avoid rapists, and just talking about social media, girls meeting these creeps on the internet, and I talk about roadside memorials, those things people put up along the roads that to me just seem really tacky. I talk about nooses and suicide. I talk about my negative personality. I talk about my caffeine problem. I get into a lot of stuff about me and the wife and what attracted me to her and her evil sense of humor, which is as dark as mine. I talk about asshole bleaching, vaginal rejuvenation, the dangers of performing oral sex on women, obesity versus starvation, the Food Network, which I've become obsessed with, and some of the personalities, how creepy I find them. Technology, Twitter, cell phones, how porn has been perfected because of the internet, all kinds of shit. And like I said, it's not very political, and but it's still relevant, and I love it. It's going to be killer. Can't wait to get there. Been working on some material for probably a year and a half. I'm just tired of it. Can't wait to get it out there. More than prepared to get it out there. Before I forget, let me get business out of the way. This episode of the Nick DiPaolo podcast brought to you by Ting Mobile. Ting is mobile that makes sense. It's a great company, okay? And this is why. There's no overage charges or penalties. If you use more than you thought you would, you just pay for what you use. They have something called a Ting calculator. You can go on their site and punch in what you're paying, right now, what you're spending on texting and phone minutes and data and all that, and it'll tell you how much you're saving and how much you're getting screwed by your current carrier. And you can have unlimited devices on one plan. You can have as many devices as you want. Plan. You can pull minutes, messages, megabytes. Each device on a plan costs only $6 flat per month. Pretty damn good. No mysterious line items on your bill, which is what I love. No hidden charges, no recovery fees or other bullshit, which is great. And they have customer support. You call 1-855-TING-FTW anytime between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You'll talk to a human being. Imagine that. And it's just amazing. Go to nickdip.ting.com to receive $25 off your first device purchase or $25 in service credit if you bring your own device. You can also go to the riotcast.com page, click on the Nick DiPaolo podcast page, and click on the Ting banner. And Ting Mobile, it's the way to go, baby. So, what the hell's going on? Like I told you, I headed to Minneapolis, and that is, like I said, my favorite club. But I was kicking it around. I was thinking of some horror stories that happened to me. People love to hear like road stories in my 25-plus years of doing this, and got some doozies, Again, I get a pit in my stomach. You think after doing this for this long about getting on a plane tomorrow. And it's not the flying part that bothers me. It's all the other horse shit, getting there on time. And I get stressed out. I'm the most anal traveler you've ever seen. So I'm the guy that gets it like an hour and a half early. And I just, I don't know what it is, man. I just find it fucking so stressful. I hate it. But I've been doing it all these years. You'd think I'd be used to it by now, So, yeah, as far as road stories go, got a few for you. My most memorable one, here's one. I was doing the Comedy Cafe in Milwaukee, which is run by this, Samoan biker guy, like a real rebel. I love this guy. Just a great guy. Ran a tight ship. The tightest run club I've ever worked at. Would do 3 shows on a Saturday night, 7, 9, and 11. They would all start exactly on time. You know why? He would stand there in between shows while the staff was cleaning up. He'd stand. He's got like a walking cane with like a gold handle on it. He's got all this big bling all over his hands and all this jewelry. And he would just just not berate the staff, but, browbeat them. And they would turn that thing over in a matter of seconds. But I think it was the second or third time I went back there. First of all, he used to put you up in this creepy house across the street, like a 3-decker house that you would see in a shitty neighborhood. This old creepy. I heard about it before I played it, but I'm like, what am I gonna do? That's what the guy insists on. So I remember opening the door, and it looks like there was just like cobwebs and stuff, and like 3 inches of dust on everything, and. It was so creepy. And I'm not a diva. I mean, I lived in a fraternity. It doesn't get much grosser than that. But so I remember it was kind of dirty. The room and the bed was kind of So I slept in my clothes. I remember I took my socks and shoes off, but I left my jeans and a T-shirt on. And I'm laying there. All of a sudden, I wake up in the middle of the night, and I feel something crawling up my arm. So I turn the light on that was next to the bed, and there's like a silverfish. You know those things with like 1,000 legs? It's not a worm. It's not a caterpillar. I don't know what the fuck it is, but it's kind of shiny. Was crawling up my left arm. I fucking jumped out of bed. I was like my wife when she sees a mouse. I almost shit my pants. Fucking flinging the thing across the room. It's like it was actually closer to it was closer to like 4:35 in the morning. I get dressed and sit on the edge of the bed. He was picking me up for radio at like 6:30. the guy who ran the club, that owned the club. And so he beeps at like 6:30. I come out. I'm all dressed. I have my bags in my hand. I get in the car. He's like, "What are you fucking doing?" And I go, dude, I said, I can't stay there. I told him about the silverfish and stuff. He was good about it. He didn't argue. He kind of snickered, and brought me to a Holiday Inn. And this is how the trip started. So, I did radio. Then I insisted he bring me to a hotel. He brought me to like a Holiday Inn in Milwaukee and put me up there. The next time I went back to that club, something bad. This is like bad luck. I go back to that club because it was a killer club. It was sold out all 3 shows. And like I said, they ran it like a Swiss watch. I go back there. I fly out of LaGuardia. I remember eating a tuna fish sandwich that I got at LaGuardia. Then I got on the plane, and I was still hungry. And this is what I get for being a pig. It was JetBlue, and they had chicken cordon bleu. Which right away, the radar should go up. Chicken cordon bleu on a fucking plane. So I eat that, too. I get to the hotel, somebody picks me up. I'm at the airport, brings me to the hotel, Holiday Inn this time, same place. I'm sitting there, and I'm watching TV. I was watching a ball game, and all of a sudden I start sweating profusely, and my stomach starts making these weird fucking sounds. And when you're like, oh no, this can't be good. You're in denial. You just pretend. And all of a sudden I start shivering, like uncontrollably. And I keep wiping my head, and I'm soaked. I look like Robert Parrish for the Celtics playing a triple overtime game in 112 degrees in the old Garden. It's just gushing off me. All of a sudden, man, I start to feel queasy and run to the bathroom. I sit on the toilet, and as I'm blowing it out my rear end, I start vomiting. So now I'm shitting and puking at the same time. It went from, from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. So I obviously have food poisoning. And I'm just flushing the toilet, and my teeth are chattering. I thought they were going to friggin' break. I try to go back, back into the living room part of the suite or whatever he put me up. And I put the TV back on, and my teeth are just banging together. And all of a sudden, again, I just rush to the back and start power gacking like I have never thrown up in my life. Just blasted out of me. So I don't know what it was. And it's either the cordon bleu on the JetBlue flight or the tuna. Which is stupid to eat either one of those. Don't ever buy something like that at an airport that has tuna in it. They put the date on it, made today, which is horseshit. Thing's probably there for a week and a half. And just power gacking and throwing up and teeth are chattering. And just, if you've ever had it, it's the worst thing, man. It's worse than swallowing tobacco, which I've done. It gives you the same feeling, though. You turn white and sweaty and just start puking. But when you puke up the tobacco, that's it. I just have never been that sick in my goddamn life. And the room just smelled like puke. And all night, I'm going back and forth. I'm in my underwear. It felt like it was 11 degrees in my room, which it wasn't. And then I'd be sweating profusely. It's fucking, I still don't know to this day who almost killed me. But I stayed, the sun's coming up and I'm still puking. I puked, honest to God, it was like 21 times. Just puking. I could see it's the only time you look ripped, by the way. I actually, you see your stomach muscles. I was just dying. And I'm supposed to do radio that morning. I call him on a cell and tell him. And he comes right over. Like I said, he's Samoan or Hawaiian. I can't remember. But he smelt the puke in the room. He knew I wasn't just trying to get out of radio. And he said, I'm going to take care of you. And I go, what are you talking about? He goes, I got a remedy for this if you have food poisoning. He goes out and he comes back and he has bananas, popsicles, and applesauce. And I'm like, what the fuck? He goes, just trust me. He goes, the bananas have pectin in them that'll stop your diarrhea. The The popsicles will rehydrate you, which I was. I was totally dehydrated, and I can't remember the applesauce has something in it too that keeps you from puking. But I ate 24 popsicles. I ate the whole box of popsicles. My teeth were purple and blue and shit. And ate a couple bananas and all the applesauce. And sure enough, I swear to God, by like noon, 1 o'clock, I was feeling like 90% better. It was just crazy how it worked. It's something his mother used to give him. And this is this big biker guy. You got to see him. He's got like a goatee, like a scary-looking dude. Couldn't have been nicer about it. And ended up doing afternoon radio that day. But I wrote a whole bit on it. If you guys have my earlier CDs about food poisoning, that's all true. From that trip to Milwaukee, the Comedy Cafe. He was I forget his name, man. I want to say Johnny something, but he was a scary dude. This comedian, John Bush, actually played that club. I heard this the first time he played it, and the owner called him in the back room like the first night he was there and pinned him against the wall and pulled out a gun, just kidding around, saying, I heard you've been bad-mouthing me or something. I know Johnny Bush didn't find it funny at that point, but, kind of a fucking scary guy, but loved the club, man. And that was the worst thing that ever happened to me. Well, not the worst. I got a few chlamydia stories, but that one sticks out. And then I remember, a couple of years ago, I'm doing Helium in Philly, and I'm walking to the club. It was like a mile from the hotel. Walking to the club, and I see like a Con Ed truck about a mile down the road, and I'm like, that looks like it's right in front of the comedy club. It had the lights going and shit. And then I noticed as I was getting closer to the club, all the bars and restaurants, the power was out, and something had exploded right in front of the club underground. Whatever the equivalent of Con Ed is in Philly. I don't think it was Con Ed. They had the manhole open, and something exploded down there. So the Thursday night show, I go into the club, it's pitch black. There's the staff's walking around with candles. So that show was canceled. So we sat there by candlelight, and I drank 4 Stoli on the rocks in about, 28 minutes. I felt like a kid, had a snow day. And I just got fucking hammered and just wandered outside and started wandering by myself because I didn't really know the feature. I started wandering all around Philly by myself into bars, and I was drinking like a kid at his senior prom in high school. And which I, hadn't done for a long time. I got fucking blinded. And then I remember at like 1:30 in the morning, I'm sitting there going, I'm the oldest guy in this bar. I'm that creepy fucking guy. I'm looking at the waitresses and shit, and nobody's talking to me. It was the fucking saddest realization. So I'm like, I gotta get out of here. I wanted back out on the street. I couldn't find my goddamn hotel. I'm walking around Philly. You don't want to be lost in Philly. No, you don't want to be lost at noontime in Philly. Never mind after midnight. I'm too proud to ask anybody for directions, and I'm getting more and more fucking lost. I couldn't even remember the name of the friggin' hotel for like 5 minutes, and just wandering around. And I remember a limo pulled up, and it was a prom, and this heavy-set black girl gets on. She looked beautiful. She had her hair up, and she had this beautiful gown on, and I come around the corner and I see her. She's walking down the sidewalk, and I go, "You look absolutely gorgeous." And I'm slurring and all of a sudden her boyfriend like gets out of the limo, which is like 50 feet. He goes, "What'd you say about girlfriend?" And I'm like, "Nothing. I just paid her a fucking compliment." And I had to cross the street. Thought I was gonna get the shit kicked out of me. A whole limo full of guys, and then I had to ask. I finally, after being lost for about 25 minutes, I had to ask somebody how to get back to my hotel. I had to look up on my my cell phone the name of the hotel, which that didn't dawn on me for like an hour. Oof. So, but it was like a day off, a night off. I still got paid. I got hammered. Felt like shit for the rest of the weekend. Sister brought some people in and friends, and that's another horror story. When I first started comedy in Boston, I went to I did a gig in Buffalo, a college way up in Buffalo. Okay? Did the college, hooked up with some broad, stayed up all night, drove the next day to Boston from Buffalo. I can't remember how many fucking hours it was, but had been up all night was the point. And my parents come to the show that night. Forgot they were even coming, okay? You're so wrapped up in your own life when you're that young and having a blast. And I've been up for 24. I hadn't, not a wink of sleep. Shouldn't have been out in public. And the guy before me is on stage. I want to say DJ Hazard, some Boston guy. But there was a guy heckling, Steve Trilling, that's who it was. And there was this guy heckling, him and his wife, this big strapping guy with a mustache, was like heckling Steve Trilling and just ruining the show. And his wife was yelling shit out. So then they introduce me. I go on. The guy starts doing the same to me. I'm like, dude, just shut the fuck up. I bum a cigarette. This is when you could smoke in a club. Some guy hands me like a Camel unfiltered. And I'm not like a huge smoker. I'm a social. I take a drag off it. It was like somebody shot heroin into me. I just got so lightheaded and shit. I almost felt like the food poisoning. And I'm just, my ears are whistling. I thought I was going to like faint. And then a guy starts yelling more shit out. I go, fuck you. And then he stands up. And my parents are there. My parents are there with friends, mind you. And I don't even, I forget completely. I'm so wrapped up in this guy and his asshole wife. And then I ended up calling the wife like the C word or some shit. And it just turned everybody, sour and it was just a horrible. My cousin Eric was there and he tried to fight the guy. What a horror show. And then I get back to my apartment. I was living in Boston at the time, and there's a message from my old man, like scolding me. He goes, "What are you thinking? You can't." This is how funny is. My father goes, "You can't call a woman that. You're not big enough in the business yet." I don't know if he was trying to be funny. I don't think he was trying to be funny, but how funny is that? Like, I became huge. But I woke up that next morning going, oh, what did I do last night? And, my parents had their friends there, this couple that I've known for years. They couldn't believe that they came out of my mouth and fucking her. They didn't come to see me, my parents, for, I think, another 6 or 7 years. And I can't blame them. I remember reading an interview somebody was doing, and they called my parents' house to ask about me, about my career and stuff. And I remember my parents for like 10 interviews in a row would always go, my dad's like, I don't care for the language he uses. And it kept him away from my show for like 6 or 7 years. I hate it when people come that anyways. Because you're up there, you're spilling your guts, you're showing all your warts. And sometimes it's stuff about your family or, whatever. It's it can be embarrassing on the following Thanksgiving. But that was Stitches in Boston. And it was just horrible. And then Hilarities in Cleveland, which was a great club run by this guy named Nick. He was an old school Brooklyn guy and a nice guy, but a real hands-on guy. He would, pick you up to do radio in the morning, but he would come into the station and sit in while you were doing radio, making sure you were, like being funny and stuff. I remember him picking me up and going, you seem kind of grumpy this morning. I go, yeah, I'm a fucking comedian. I put my last drink down about an hour and a half ago, Nick. Jesus Christ. It's like me waking him up. We go to bed at 3 a.m. and we sleep till noon. So, it's like waking somebody up that goes to bed at 11 at night to get up at 7 a.m, waking you up at 2 a.m. and go, be funny, be quick, be mentally sharp. I hate the whole morning fucking radio. Every comic does. It makes no goddamn sense, okay? We're night creatures to begin with. But anyway, so he would come in and watch you do radio and just like browbeat you. He was a real hands-on guy. But I liked him. He's an old-school guinea. And anyways, the first night at the club at Hilarities, the new club, which he built, and it was gorgeous, I'm up there, and again, there's a group in the middle of like 25 people at one party, which is a big mistake to do at comedy clubs, but they have to make money, I understand. And this drunk lady, is yelling shit out, and I'm trying to ignore her, and finally I give her a couple of zingers, stuff you'd say at a roast, not too pretty. And long story short, it turns out that table of people, the guy that owned the club, his partner, who went in and gave him half the money to open his club, was sitting at that table, and that was his wife that I was saying horrendous shit to. So they wanted Nick, the owner, felt he had to refund them. I'm like, what's the big deal if the guy's your partner or whatever? I don't know. But anyways, he called us in the kitchen, And the whole staff, he called in the bouncers and stuff. The bouncers, when the club was brand new, they came in too early. They made it look worse than it was. I was handling the woman, but they jumped in too quick. Then it looked like it disrupted everything. And anyways, he's chewing out the staff. He's chewing me out. He's looking me in the eye, saying how he had to refund the whatever it was, the $1,200 they spent or whatever. Again, I don't see the big deal if it was his partner or somebody, best friends, I can't remember, but it was just humiliating. I'm in the kitchen with the staff, and he's yelling, and every time he raises his voice, he's looking right at me. And then he chewed me out, and I haven't been back since. And it was a nice club. They had like a room dedicated to Frank Sinatra, a piano room, and that was hilarities in Cleveland. Very embarrassing. And then the rest of the weekend was uncomfortable. I wasn't myself. I wasn't cutting loose, and oof. Took a beating. Hilarities in Cleveland. Good club. Big club. Guy would pack it out. I played an improv in Cleveland, and they used to put you up at a comedy condo. Right, when you first started out, they wouldn't give you a hotel. They'd stay at a condo. They saved money that way. But I remember getting there, and Bobby Slayton apparently had played the club the weekend before I did. I go into the kitchen after I unpack and shit, and there's a fridge in there. I don't know what I'm thinking. I'm looking for food, like I'm gonna find, Joe Rogan left some yogurt in there or something. I don't know what I was thinking. I open the freezer. And there's a Hustler centerfold open in the freezer, like this ugly broad playing with herself, with a note from Bobby Slayton. DiPaolo, I thought you'd like this. In the freezer. I was afraid to touch anything in the fridge for the rest of the week. And there was no, the cable was out. There was no, had no porn. Usually comics will leave some, porn back in the day. You could watch a VHS. There was nothing. It was just like 3 channels on the TV, I remember. And I had no porn, and that frightens you when you're a comic, when you first check in. How am I going to go 5 days without any porn? And the only thing I could find, and this is true, it's a true story. I'm not proud of it. Don't judge me on it. I'm telling you about it. Only thing I could find was a Life magazine, an old Life magazine celebrating it was the 50 greatest photos in the history of Life magazine. So I ended up jerking off to the, remember the picture of the girl running down the street naked in Vietnam? Again, don't judge me. I can hear them moaning right now. It's all I had. I brought that story up when me and my wife were arguing who's hornier, men or women, and she hadn't said a word after that. But that's all I could find. People like, that's horrible. And I'm like, what are you talking about? We had a lot in common, She was naked, I was naked. She's in Vietnam, I was in Cleveland, pretty similar. And, yeah, that's a low point, I think, on the road for me. But to open a freezer and find that thing, there's Slayton left in there. What a fucking, he's one of the funniest guys alive, by the way. Naperville, Illinois, I think it was a funny bone. I got laid 4 times in 1 week. The best I ever did. Didn't come close to it after that. I don't know what it was. I still look for pictures back. Well, I was in my fucking, I was about 30 years old. That had something to do with it. But some girl, I got my hair cut when I got to Naperville. The hairdresser came in, and she came into the show that night. Ended up going back to her hair salon. She had like a kitchenette. She owned the hair salon. And performed oral on me when I was sitting under one of those hair dryers. The ladies sit under those old-fashioned hair dryers. It's a true story. It wasn't on. I had it on, sitting under it to be funny. And, yeah. She had beer and booze in her fridge in the kitchenette area, which makes me believe that she might have done this before with a few fellas. She's really cute. I remember she's like a redhead. Oh... And then a couple girls, 2 nights later, a couple other girls. Like, that was on a Wednesday. A girl in the crowd I met on Thursday, and a girl on Friday. It ended with a waitress on the last night, I remember. And surprise, surprise, I had chlamydia about a week and a half later. Prick was, as Ralph Cifaretto said, my prick was leaking like a busted pipe. But that was a highlight of my road career. My God. I remember going back and looking at pictures and shit right after that. And what was I wearing? What was it, the cologne? What was the shirts? I could never duplicate even coming close to that. Must have been in shape or something. I don't know what the fuck. It's all luck, you know. You hit the girls who are just drunk enough. So, but that was funny getting blown under a hair dryer. Just beautiful. Tulsa, Oklahoma. There was a club in Tulsa, and it was right down the street from that religious university. It was what is it? What the hell's the name of the university? I don't know, but was it Bob's? Something like that. Bob's sounds like a burger joint, but it had. It was a Jerry Falwell deal, I think, right down the street in Tulsa. But it had two giant praying hands, a statue like 40 feet high in front of the school, two hands praying. And so I had to do morning radio the first day there, and I made a joke. I said they should put a dick in one of those hands to let tourists know how they're gonna be spending their 5 days in Tulsa, because there was nothing to do there. And the guy doing the radio was laughing until he almost fell off his seat, and the phones were lighting up and stuff. And then, of course, I get a call from the club saying people are irate because I forgot it's right in the Bible Belt there, and they were furious. Phones were lighting up off the hook. I thought they found me hilarious, but you know what? They came out anyways. The numbers are really good. And the club guy, the owner, didn't give me any grief. So it was pretty packed, and I'm doing a show a couple nights later. I think it was a Friday night first show in Tulsa, same club, and again, hecklers, a guy and a lady yelling shit out, sitting together. So I go, and again, they weren't just heckling me; they were heckling the MC, and it just real like redneck, fucking scary. And the guy starts with me about 10 minutes into my act, and the woman he's with is yelling shit out, you know. So finally I go, why don't you and your wife just get the fuck out of here? And he goes, it ain't my wife, it's my sister. And I'm like, well, it's Tulsa. What's the difference? I don't even get the word difference out of my mouth. He gets up. They were sitting like in the middle of the room, starts running. Luckily, the doorman was watching all this shit. And his wife gets up, and she goes down the other aisle. And so I see two doormen, one on each side. One guy tackles the husband, and the other one tackles the wife. And the doorman was like a big, mean, like redneck type guy at the Tulsa club. And he jumped in and had the husband by the waist, and the other guy had the wife, and they're like kicking their feet and yelling shit. And that scared me. That one scared me. But the bouncers laughing about it afterwards. It happens all the time. Well, why don't you do something about it? You know, it shouldn't be happening all the time. Is the friggin' point? You gotta train the audience. If a club has been around for a few years, you gotta let them know who's boss. But holy moly, that'll get your blood pumping. There's always fun. Then I broke my hand in at Giggles. I can't remember. Did I break it? I've had two physical confrontations, and both at clubs called Giggles. Ironically, one in Seattle and one in Boston. And I think it was Seattle where I broke my hand. Again, guy up front and his girlfriend kept yelling shit out. I flew out there, so I'm on New York time. It's like a second show started like 11:30, so it's really 2:30 in the morning. I've been up for about 21 hours, and I'm a little cranky, and he's drunk. And I don't know, we get into it. He's sitting right in the front, and I lean over, like an inch from his, and he puts his finger on my chest. I slap it away, and next thing you know, I jump down on the table. And it's embarrassing when shit like that happens. But it was a hockey fight, and the place is going crazy. And they threw this kid out and his girlfriend. Listen to this. So I go back on stage. People are chanting. I'm embarrassed. I have like guacamole on my pants. My fucking hand is all swollen. And I start to go back into my act, and I'm trying to tell the crowd, you shouldn't be excited about this. This is not what this is about. And I'm about 10 minutes back into my act. The exit door swings open, one of the side exits. The kid comes back in. He grabs a couple glasses off the tables and throws them at my head. I duck, and they smash behind. It was like a country and western, a brawl at a saloon. And bunch of kids at one of the tables, fans of mine, chase this kid out of the chase this kid out of the club. They chase him into the parking lot, and apparently while they were chasing him, he ran into something and broke his leg, his femur or something. And they were trying to beat him up with his broken leg. And they put him in an ambulance. He almost went into shock and all this shit. I mean, just crazy. And then it turns out, a few weeks later, he's on the air with a lawyer. The cops came and were taking statements, and everybody's on my side. Everybody in the crowd saw what happened. They're defending me. He poked me in the chest. I slapped him across the face. Did I forget that little? And that's what triggered the whatever. I didn't even make contact. I poked him. Yeah, I didn't even make really contact. But once we get going, I had his shirt over his head. But he had prior whatever. And all the cops were laughing about it and stuff. And then he was on the radio with a lawyer trying to get witnesses or something. And that kind of scared me. I thought he was going to, And then I started doing this web show. This was years ago. This little web thing. I don't know what you call it. Blog TV, whatever the fuck. And all of a sudden I see this thing come up. It says Northwest Madman. And it was him. And he's like, good thing security broke that fight up, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, security? You're talking about the, 4'11" guy that weighed 106 pounds that owned the club? He's the one who broke up the fight. And, but every time I did this chat show, he'd be in the chat room. And then we started to, he liked the show. And then we actually became like friends. He sent me a picture. He sent me a picture of him and he had a little girl. And he was actually, a decent guy. It was just the alcohol. In both of us, probably. So we ended up kind of being friends on the internet, and just fucking crazy, man. Alcohol obviously is the problem, but yeah, that was Giggles in Seattle, and Atlanta was a good one. Come out of the I think it was the Improv in Atlanta at the time. It wasn't even the Punchline. Yeah, it was the Improv, and yeah, I'm walking to the cab, and this girl comes up really drunk and grabs my arm and goes, where are we going? I had already waved down a cab. I go, I'm going to my hotel. And she gets in the cab with me, and I'm like, I told the cab driver, don't go yet. I go, you can't, miss. You're drunk, you don't know what you're doing. She was by herself. I don't understand. And really good looking, by the way. And she goes, no, I'm going with you. I don't know if to this day, I don't know if she was at the show or what, So she's in the cab, and I'm trying to get her out, and she just refuses. So I said to the cab driver, fine. Take me to the so-and-so hotel. And on the way, she's like, I'm starving. Pull over at the 7-Eleven. She goes into the 7-Eleven, comes out with a giant bag of Doritos, and what the hell else did she buy in there? One of those hard lemonades or something like that. One of those drinks, and she's eating the Doritos like she hadn't eaten in 3 weeks. She's in my room eating the Doritos. We're watching TV, and she's drinking this hard lemonade, which she didn't need at that point. And then she excuses herself and goes into my bedroom and shuts the door. She says she has to use the bathroom. So I'm in there and I'm watching TV. I almost forget about her. And then I hear I open the door, I stick my head in, she's laying on my bed, power gacking, nachos and fucking Mike's Hard Lemonade or whatever the fuck she was drinking. And there's, salsa she had bought in salsa. There's bell peppers all over the bedspread. I'm like, what the fuck? I pick her up and she's belligerent. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're getting the fuck out of here. And somebody called the cops, next to me, because of all the noise that was going on. The cops knock on my door, and I go, I tell them the whole story. I'm like, she wouldn't fucking leave. They talk her into leaving. Okay, didn't even get laid. Brought a girl back, and she puked all over my bed. Okay, a good-looking girl. She fucking power gacks, and the cops take her away. Oh, how fucking embarrassing. Yet I miss those days. Isn't that hilarious? Once you're married this long, you're actually, I miss having chlamydia every 3 weeks. I had to go to I did have chlamydia, and I had to go to one of those free clinics in Atlanta. This was a different road trip years later, and I had a steady girlfriend at home. I wasn't a good boyfriend at all, and I knew I had slept with her, and I know she didn't give it to me. I had slept with some pig on the road, and found out. So I went to a free clinic in Atlanta. I used to tell the story on stage, and I get there, and it's me and 12 black guys sitting on like aluminum chairs in the waiting room. I look like Rick Pitino coaching a Kentucky team or something. And, ended up, getting the old swabberoo and then finding out a few days later that I had, I had chlamydia. And I'm like, oh, now I have to call my steady girlfriend and tell her that. I was like JFK, just staring at the phone during the Cuban Missile Crisis by himself, scratching his chin, looking out the window. It was horrifying, the longest week of my life, because I knew I blew that relationship. And that was like a long-term relationship. I fucked that one up horribly. And but going to a free clinic in Atlanta they put on a videotape like in the waiting room, telling you famous people that had the clap and shit. It was like presidents. Fillmore had the clap back in 80, and Abe Lincoln was known to. But just crazy. And like I said, kind of miss it. Punchline, Sacramento. I hope you're enjoying these. Otherwise, you're going to hate the podcast. But Punchline, Sacramento, bachelorette party. I get there. I'm in really foul mode, even for me. And as a bachelorette, probably because I'm playing Sacramento for like the 8th time that year. It was right up to this is when I was living in L.A. It was a quick flight. They paid good money. And, there was a bachelorette party, like 15 girls. And they sit them right up front, which the clubs always do. And just... They're ruining the feature acts, just not letting the guy talk, they're yelling shit out, and I'm in no friggin' mood. And I'm on my way up. They don't even throw him out. Somebody warned him a couple times. Then I'm on my way up to the stage, and they're already yelling shit at me. Take off your shirt. And I'm like, girls, you're not going to fucking get away with that, man. I'm not in the fucking mood. Shut up. And this girl goes, you're a fucking dick. And I'm like, well, you're a drunken whore. I don't even get the word whore out. She throws a beer at me, hits me in the a cup of beer all over me. So then I fucking lost my temper. I went cuckoo. And I mean, I went cuckoo. I called him everything I could in the friggin' book. Shit that was coming out of my mouth that was shocking me. But I was in the right. I thought I was. And all of a sudden, some kid stands up in the back, a table of guys. You can't talk to girls like that. I go, are you fucking defending these drunken whores? You have to be out of your fucking... And I start fighting with them. And now I get half the room against me. And I just refused to perform. I stood up there and was taken on like every table, and people started to walk out, and they were trying to get their money back. They're filing out. The room held about 200, probably 220 or whatever, and I'm up there with a mic trying to defend myself. The manager runs up in the middle of all this, thinking it's going to calm me down. I swear to God, hands me a shot of tequila. He goes, drink this. And people are yelling. I'm yelling out with the mic. They're filing out. And by the end of it, folks, I played to like 55 people stayed. Apparently real DiPaolo fans. And played to like 55 out of 220. And there was a line out front for people for the second show, lining up for tickets. And they were asking the people that were leaving what happened in there. So I played to those 55 people and acted like nothing happened. It was friggin' hilarious. And apparently, might not have been me or the bachelor party, that Bobby Slayton, ironically enough, was there a couple months earlier and ended up a full-scale brawl at the Punchline Sacramento. He ended up punching an off-duty cop who he didn't know was a cop and was charging at him during a fight. He got into it with some young black kid who was wearing a hoodie or whatever. So, Sacramento Punchline. It's a decent room, I got to be honest. But some nights, man, it's just there's something in the air. And usually it's the perfume of some fat chicks at a bachelorette party. And, and that one was creepy, too, because it's funny. I sat in the back of the room where the second crowd was filing in for the second show, and I could hear them asking the waitstaff, what went on in here? We heard the headline is crazy. And, and I heard the waiters and waitresses laughing and explaining what happened with the bachelorette party and shit. But that got really ugly. And then there was some guys waiting for me in a pickup truck, apparently after the show, that were defending those drunken pigs. And so I had security had to bring me back to the hotel. That was a little scary, got to admit. Not my fault. Just up there trying to tell jokes. So those are some of the horrendous, and I got more. I guess I'll save them for later episodes. But that's the beauty of this job, folks. People like to hear the inside shit. It's never boring. You never know. You don't like stories like that. You don't like nights like that. You don't feeling good about them, but it's not always your fault. You know? People have, I think the crowds have been a lot more, I think they have been educated over the years. They've gotten better, as you know, they realize. But now we have to deal with cell phones and all that other horse shit. But those are some of the horror stories, and people always ask you, what was your worst gig, like as far as on stage? And I remember when I first started comedy, I was in the business about 2 years, which is still almost open mic level. And I had a friend who played football at the University of Maine. He was a lot like kind of like that incognito guy, I gotta be honest with you. He was a scary fucking lineman. Crazy. Didn't wear a mouthpiece, and he was really like a great football player. 5'10", 270, all roided out. Just a hardcore alcoholic, and just great when he wasn't drinking, but one of the scariest guys you want to be around. And anyways, he knew somebody who ran the Cape Cod Melody Tent, which is a beautiful theater, outdoor theater with a tent over it. It's a theater on the round. The stage is round, and it rotates while you're on it. And anyways, he knew somebody who ran it, and he knew I did comedy, and Paul Anker was performing there and needed an opening act. Folks, it couldn't have been a worse combination. I'm only in the business a couple of years. I'm still very raw. Paul Anker is lily white clean. He wrote that song, Having My Baby. He wrote the Tonight Show theme. People old enough, you know who he is. Just lily white Vegas guy with just a spotless reputation. And I don't know who lied on my behalf, but he said yes to me opening. He had no idea what he was getting into. And I get there, I pull up, and I'm looking around, and I honest to God, I'm in the parking lot. I see nobody under 75. I am not exaggerating. And I'm like, I am fucked. I am in deep doo-doo. And it was actually worse than I thought it was going to be. I see, and I'm not making this. I see people with oxygen tanks, walking towards the venue and shit. And I'm just going, oh my God, this is going to be horrendous. And of course, they read me the riot act before the show. Look, this is Paul Anker. Bop, bop, bop. These are his credits. No language, no cursing. And I'm just like, oh my God. But the money was great at that point. You know what I mean? I was making, $50 a night as like an open micer. Had no business being there. Go on stage, and I am just dying the death of 1,000 fucking cuts. I mean, I'm talking, you could hear you could hear nothing. When 2,200 or 2,500 people are quiet, it's frighteningly quiet. And I'm not getting anything. And I was so nervous. I take a drink of my water in this cup. I put it behind me, but I didn't realize I put it on a part of the rim of the outside of the stage. It wasn't part of the stage that was rotating. Do you know what I'm saying? So I put it on a permanent thing, and I go to reach back a few minutes later for my water, and it's like 180 degrees behind me because the stage is rotating. So now I have cotton mouth and I have nothing to drink, and I'm friggin' bombing. And then I just said, fuck it. I did some joke about adult diapers and eating enough roughage and shitting yourself. And that blew them open for about 5 minutes. They found that funny, I thought, I don't want to make fun of old people shitting their pants. That's why I wasn't doing that stuff. And so I just went into that, and I was winging for about 5 minutes, and those are the only laughs I got. I had to do, I don't know, maybe I only had to do like 20, I think, and 15 of it was silence. It was fucking. And here's the thing: I'm rotating on the stage. I'm burning like a piece of chicken in a microwave. Everybody's watching me suck. You just see these faces, and they're going by slowly, and then you'd see them again, still not laughing. It was horrible. And apparently, Paul Anka was a little upset at my my language. I just, 5 minutes into it, I started dropping the F-bombs and, the only laughs I get with shit jokes. And it was holy moly. But the money was good. And I went back to that same venue and opened for Patti LaBelle and had two of the greatest sets of my life. She asked me, she came back to town twice, had me back. She had me into her dressing room. I murdered. I was sitting up there. My sister came to one of the shows. I'm talking to my sister Gina after I had performed, and Patti LaBelle's out there singing. And then Patty's talking. I'm not listening. I'm talking to my sister Gina, and a guy in front of us goes, "Hey, she wants you to come down to the stage." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And sure enough, Patty goes, Where's that good-looking Italian boy that opened for me? Nick, come on down here." And I went down on the stage, and she sang while I stood on the stage next to her piano player, whatever the fuck. Okay? Patti LaBelle. She was the nicest woman I ever met in show business to this day. She was the sweetest lady. Had me and my sister into her dressing room. She was giving my sister shrimp. They had all this food, and she couldn't have been nicer. Just the sweetest and so goddamn talented, man, and so good. And at the same place. You believe it? They had me back to the Cape Cod. It was a year later. I opened for Paula Brannigan there, too. The late, great Paula Brannigan. Gloria! Yeah, she's gone now. And that was fun. But Patti LaBelle tried to hook me up with her hot niece. She had this niece who was just stunningly good-looking. And she couldn't have been nicer. So thank you, Patti LaBelle. You're the balls. So that's about it as far as comedy stories. I'll save a few for later episodes. I died the death of 1,000 cuts at the Comedy Store in Los Angeles on a Saturday night. Went on up to Bobby Collins and remind me to tell you about when I got fired from a club in San Leandro, California for smoking on stage, and it was my birthday. I'll get to that later. So I'm looking forward to Minneapolis. Can't wait to get there. It's going to be great. That's about it. Remember, if you like your insurance, you can keep it, period. Anyways, kids, good to talk to you. I will, like I said, this is Saturday, and what is November 9th right now, I believe. So I'll release this in a couple days, and off to Minneapolis. Can't wait to do it. What else? That's about it. Sports-wise, I'm missing a bunch of college games right now, and I don't care. I had 5 right out of 15, I think, in the NFL in the pool, and I can't predict that league. The teams are interchangeable. It almost defeats the purpose of having a league. That's how much parity there is. It's just typical of our society. It's mediocrity. It's just fucking ugh. Meanwhile, my niece Jenna, who we used to bring up on the Nick and Artie show, Artie used to laugh because I would say, "Yeah, my niece won the pool again." She won again last week with 11 wins. She had 11 out of 15, and you know how she did it? They have a button you can hit in the pool that picks random teams. That's how she did it. She hit the random button and picked it for her. So the NFL's turning me off, man. But I will still continue to follow it because I'm as dumb as everybody else out there. That is about it, ladies and gentlemen. Good to talk to you again. And good night until we meet again. Yes. Adios. Take care of yourselves. Until I talk to you next time, go eat a sandwich. Good night, everybody.